Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined daily by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking, get your questions in. Got a couple of special guests today, including Hump Day with Hills. Tony Hills will be joining us, followed by Ray Gates, North Crowley head coach and National Coach of the Year by Max Prep. So lots of good talent coming on here in just a little bit, guys. But speaking of good talent, yesterday we learned that maybe the 2025 recruiting class isn't over. And Jerry, I'm going to let you tell folks about that.
Yeah, so Johnny Nansen, one thing he's brought to Texas is a guy that recruits Las Vegas area. And Texas hadn't had that before. We've talked about that. Salt Lake City, Las Vegas are now going to be part of the Texas repertoire in recruiting. Well, this is A.J. Tutele, linebacker from Mojave High in North Las Vegas. He signed with Washington State out on December 4th over Arizona. Coach Jake Dickert took the Wake Forest job. He asked for a release from his letter of intent to Washington State. Immediately upon getting that release, USC got involved and offered him and got him on campus for an official visit last weekend. Well, Texas offered him yesterday, and he is. And I exchanged messages with his coach there at Mojave last night, and he is scheduled. I'm going to say this scheduled to come in for an official visit this weekend. And I say scheduled because on the West Coast, a lot of people think the kid's going to end up at USC, stay on the West Coast like he did coming out of high school with Washington State initially. But he makes the visit. You never know what's going to happen. But Texas is looking to add one of the best linebackers. I mean, look, he isn't ranked that way. And honestly, I hadn't done research on him since I don't do this nationally anymore. But he had as good a senior season as any defensive player in America. He had 196 tackles, 39 tackles for loss in 13 games. He's long, he's rangy, he really closes on the football. There's some similarities. There's some similarities to Madden Faramo here with the way he closes on a football. He's not as big of a kid coming out of high school, but I can see why Johnny Nansen likes him, because when you watch him, you see some of what he liked in Madden Faramo with this kid, the way he flows to the football. He is a true linebacker. But he can, when he adds 20 pounds, he is going to bring physicality. Yes, I did say 196 tackles in 13 games. If you go look at his max preps, MJF asked that. If you go look at his max preps, there's games of 19, 20, 20. I mean, he felt like he made half his team's tackles. But it's really the way he flows and closes on the ball and the range he has. A lot of similarities, Bobby, to Madden Faramo, what Johnny Nansen liked about him.
I wonder if he's a lot of similarities to Leonga Lafau, because if he's that much of a tackler, he's got a nose for the ball. You know what I mean? Like Leonga does, in my opinion, too. Look, I wrote something this morning for On Texas Football that Sark and these guys, the one thing that there are many things I like about Steve Sarkisian and what he's built at Texas. So I shouldn't say there's one thing. One of them, though, that I really think is why Texas is in the position that they're in. He is always looking to improve the team.
Yeah.
However that may be. So this is a non-traditional signing, right, Jerry? He goes back into the portal or into availability. Texas hasn't really been recruiting him.
No.
All of a sudden, he becomes available on December 4th or whatever day Jake Dickert takes the Wake Forest job out of Washington State. And all of a sudden, Texas shows up on his radar, and Texas starts recruiting. That's how you build a team. It's not always the traditional, hey, we're going to sign you out of high school. I mean, it's portal nowadays. It's development. It's, finding guys that not everybody knows about. I mean, I think that Johnny Nansen has been a really big bonus for this staff, to your point, not just about Las Vegas, but on the West Coast in general, Jerry. He's been really, really solid for Texas and for what Steve Sarkisian likes to do from a recruiting perspective, in my opinion.
And by the way, if you go look the kids' profiles up on all the various recruiting industry websites, you'll see kind of the issue in our industry right now is, and look, it's a hard job. There's so many kids and the process moves along so fast. But if you look up this kid's profile, anywhere you go, it's going to say mid 3-star, ranked about the 1,500th best prospect in the country. Does this look like the 1,500th best prospect in America to anybody? No chance. I mean, so again, he committed to Washington State over Arizona, had a monster senior year. And I'll read you guys the quote that the coach gave me, Coach Pacheco gave me on his star player. Let me pull this up real quick because I put it in the story on Texas Football this morning. High motor everything, the real deal, special, once-in-a-generation talent that's truly been under the radar. He will have an elite college career and play on Sundays in the NFL. That's his head coach's opinion. They've had some really good players come through there. What's also interesting about this prospect, and I'm here to say that same thing happened with Kellen Wiley. On the video, if you look up top right, you see that quick cut. That is a new competitor to Huddle. So those teams aren't on Huddle. And while this quick cut company is building to compete against Huddle, some of these kids are going to fly under the radar a little bit if they're not on Huddle anymore and they're not out getting the camps. So when you see that quick cut, if you're wondering what it is, that's Huddle's competitor. And there's not as much foot traffic going through quick cut seeing these kids as there is Huddle. So Kellen Wiley was the same way. His video that his high school used that quick cut instead versus Huddle. And I think it does cause some of these guys to be under the radar a little bit while this company builds. I think they're doing a great job, and it's good that Huddle has competition. But if you're wondering what quick cut is, that's it. And again, recap, people on the West Coast ultimately think he'll end up at USC and stay on the West Coast, but that's what visits are for. He's scheduled to make an official visit this weekend. So what we shall see. First step looks slow. I don't know about that. I think he's just diagnosing.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. Look, a big weekend ahead for the Longhorns in general, though, Jerry. Longhorns expecting to have a huge amount of folks on campus this weekend. You, as well as CJ Vogel, will be there for this junior day for the Longhorns. We saw Steve Sarkisian out and about yesterday, particularly in the Metroplex, as Houston was snowed under. Hey, I got to say this. I saw a picture yesterday, Jerry, of the seawall in Galveston Island.
Oh, yeah.
The entire seawall had snow on it. Look, I grew up down in that area. I went to Dobie High School down on the southeast side. I have never seen the seawall in Galveston blanketed by snow. I've seen it with ice on it before, but never blanketed by snow. So the Texas coaches, as a result of that, Jerry, you mentioned some were out and about on the West Coast and in other places, but Steve Sarkisian was in the Metroplex visiting with a number of players. Blake, show us the one that we've got here and let Jerry take us through it here.
Well, I was going to add to that, though, but Houston got nothing compared to New Orleans and areas down I-10. I mean, there was a foot of snow in some areas of Louisiana. A foot yesterday.
That's crazy.
Pensacola, I think, had 8 inches of snow yesterday. I mean, like Destin, Watercolor, all those places. I mean, it wasn't a beach; it was snow. It was crazy. Sark was out and about in DFW yesterday. This is Jamion Winfield, the defensive lineman that I've mentioned. I saw him at Richardson. Was it 10 days ago? Around there, 14 days ago now. That's 6'3", 297. That looks like he weighs 275. Sark needs a nap, kind of like I do. It looks like get some rest, Sark. But Jamion Winfield, Texas is trying to get him in this weekend for Junior Day. He's one of the recent offers, best junior defensive lineman in the state of Texas. I think he may rise to be a top 30 type kid in the country, if not a 5-star ranked prospect. One of the very best. Sarka also saw Max Wright at Melissa with Kyle Flood yesterday. He also went to see Javion Osborne. But then the difference there is, see, that's Sarka to school visit. Okay, and he went to Javion Osborne school and saw Osborne as well. Head coaches can't make in-home visits right now, but assistant coaches can make it make sense, NCAA. This is one of the dumbest damn things I've ever heard. So, but the assistant coaches can. So, Tashard Choice and Sark went by Forney High yesterday to see Javian Osborne. But then Choice came back and had an in-home visit at night. I mean, make it make sense. This is the stupidest crap I've ever heard in my life. But anyways, Texas saw Javian Osborne. Sark went to the school where he could see the kid. Then Choice goes and has an in-home visit with the family last night. So Texas staff was out and about. I know that Texas is going to be I believe they're going to be by North Crowley today. Kyle Flood and Sark are scheduled to see Toa Katoa around 3 at Euless Trinity today. But then we had big news. We had a big offer in DFW, and those that on Texas football know I've been pushing this one. One of the best players I saw this year, Donovan Webb. Texas offered Donovan Webb yesterday at Panther Creek in Frisco. Teammate and good friend of Jalen Lott. I've been through there twice, but when I went through earlier in the season, and Coach Surratt there, a distant relative of Scott Surratt, Clint Surratt told me, look, my junior safety is a really good player, and he's kind of under the radar. People are starting to offer him. And I watched him, and I left that practice that day thinking this kid could be a top 100 kid in the country. Donovan Webber physically is very similar to Andrew Makuba. He's 6 foot, 175. I mean, he's a chiseled kid. But he's going to be a 185, 190 pound kid when all's said and done. But he is a hellacious football player now, guys. He had 113 tackles as a sophomore, and he had 120 tackles this year. That's 230 tackles from a safety position in 2 years of high school football, 9 interceptions, multiple kick and punt returns for touchdowns. But Texas offered him yesterday ahead of his junior day visit, which will happen January 25th. He will come down with his family. His dad played baseball at Kansas State. He's a girls basketball coach at Panther Creek. LSU offered yesterday. Michigan, Ohio State, Oklahoma had offered previously. I love this offer by Texas. I think this guy's a tremendous safety prospect. I mean, will end up being one of the best in the country. Just a football player. He's just a football player. You can hand it to him. He'll rush for 150 a game, but he can really play the run. He's just always around the ball. Tremendous player. But we will get back to recruiting soon because we got to get to a guest right now, I believe.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Although I will say this. One thing you mentioned there, Jerry, the fact that he not only can rushes the ball at Panther Creek, but he also returns kicks, and he has a teammate, Jalen Lott, who also can return kicks and punts. The fact that he's doing it as well, I think, speaks to his ability overall, being very, very high level. Congratulations to Donovan Webb on that scholarship offer from the University of Texas, and Blake Gideon, the safeties coach at the University of Texas. All right, before we get to Tony Hills, we need to talk about our friend Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, and think you might be due compensation, make sure you give Adam and his firm a shout. LowyLawFirm.com, LowyLawFirm.com. They'll give you a free, no strings attached a consultation to let you know what they think of your potential case. Again, that's LowyLawFirm.com. Thank you to Adam and his team for their sponsorship of On Texas Football. Thanks, Adam. Now, our next guest. Man, we missed you last week, Tony Hills. We had to talk a little Longhorn football, and we missed you, but you had some personal family business to attend to. Tony, we have not talked to you since the national championship game. So what happened on the offensive line in the national championship game? I've been dying to ask you that question on air here.
Yeah, man, I think that we got into the rhythm too late. You know, we started picking up a little rhythm, and Sark started going towards the things that we talked about, man. When you look at offensive line play, it can't just be about what we want to do schematically. It has to be about the bodies that we have. And the reality is that we're a big body team. And when we go inside zone and when we go gap scheme or power scheme or counter, those are our bread and butter. And we got to it. You saw that we got to it. We got the wheel route going. All of that took place because we were able to pick up 5, 6, 7 yards on the first down, right? Because we started going to our bread and butter plays. And so that's really what happened. And then when we get on the goal line, listen, I know we're going to say, you know, offensive line. But when you're blocking on the goal line, it's not just offensive line, it's everybody. And when you look at the first down stop, you know, our great tight end got beat inside, and that's what killed it, right? And so now you go from that to that we lose a little confidence and instead of saying, okay, we're gonna go at this 3 more times. It's funny, man. I liken that to, You remember in the Super Bowl when everybody and their mom knew that Marshawn Lynch was supposed to get the ball and walk into the end zone? I kind of felt like that situation. I kind of felt like we didn't get the penetration that we wanted on the first play. So we outthought ourselves on the second and third one, and we ended up with an 83-yard sack fumble to clear it. And here's the thing. Is it all on that one play or that one series or that one drive? No. I know the defense would like that 75-yard scamper back right before half when they're playing so well. Like, we had our opportunities. And then I'll say this, guys. Look, shout out to Ohio State, man. Look, when we lost that game, in my eyes, I felt like that was the national championship game. We lost to the national champions. And at the end of the day, there's only going to be one standing. There's going to be multiple teams that are going to be feeling like we felt. And so shout out to Ohio State for doing what they were supposed to do. They stayed true to themselves no matter what the situation looked like. And they're the national champions because of it. What I do like about what Texas has is that every year we've built, right? So when you look at where we started when Sark first got here, right? 5-7. Then we build, we win 8 games, we go a little bit better. Then we get to a college football. Then we get to a semifinal. So when you look at the progression of what Sark and this team and the retool of players, because it's not a rebuild, it's just a retool, right? And the rebuild of players that we have, it bodes well going into the offseason. And here's the last thing I'll say. I loved looking at Arch Manning, not walking to the locker room, but taking in all the sights of what that loss felt like. And I feel like with him doing that, that was the first step of leadership going into this offseason, saying, we know what this feels like. Let's do what we need to do so that the next time we leave a place like this, those colors are running burnt orange and white.
Well, he's got it coming up. August 30th, the Longhorns will travel to Columbus, Ohio, Tony, to play the Buckeyes. I've got to ask you, as you look at that game, were there a couple of pieces that maybe, like, look, you played in the NFL. There are times when the person across from you is going to beat you, right? Yeah. They're better than you at times, right? I mean, they're good players too. Ohio State is that way. I mean, I think that's fair to say. Kelvin Banks, really good player. Cam Williams, really good player. They're going to get beat at times by other good players. That's why they're, it's not just that they're on scholarship too. They're going to get in the NFL draft too, right? And so, in games like that, where does the rubber meet the road, so to speak? Like, how is it a big play by one player? Is it like that screen pass that went for 79 yards? What is it that comes out and is ultimately the difference in those big games like that?
Yeah, it's all of that, Bobby, but then it's the attention to the small detail, right? So when you talk about how does Cam get beat? He gets beat because he takes a bad set, right? How does Kelvin get beat? He'll get beat because he doesn't throw his hands, or he takes a bad set, or he's leaning when he needs to be sitting down. Like, it's all of those things, right? And that's the thing about the game, man. It's a war of attrition. That's the reason why technique is so important. And then sometimes it becomes, once we get to a point to where it's past technique, now it becomes about will, like my will versus yours. And we've talked about that. And am I saying that Texas didn't go out there and lay it on the line? No. But what I'm saying is that when you're playing good on good, it literally becomes that next step. We just watched it. Look at Baltimore and Buffalo. like good on good. What was the difference in the game, right? Turnovers by people that don't turn the ball over, right? Mark Andrews hasn't had a fumble since 2019, right? We get down there, we got an easy 2-point conversion, he drops the ball. Like, we see this on the next level too. So it really just becomes about, when you get into these situational downs, understanding the importance of making sure that I just do my job. That a lot of people talk about the Patriot way. That literally is what the Patriot way is all about. I don't need you to do anything more than what your job entails. And if everybody does that, then we'll all collectively get to the next level. At the end of the day, and Cam will tell you this, if he's a person that I believe he is, to take full accountability. I didn't do my job. On that play, I didn't do my job, and I got beat. And look, at the end of the day, he got beat, but we also can't fumble the football for an 83-yard return, So, like, everybody has to do their job. Like, the sack fumble is not the issue. The sack, fumble, 83-yard return is the issue, because now we find ourselves with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left. We have a 2-minute timeout and 2 timeouts. We have a possibility to get the ball back. But when we give that up, right, that's it. The curtain's closed. And then throughout the game, you see this throughout the game. Texas was a step behind Ohio State to me, at least offensively, all throughout the game. I think defensively, they were a little, out of sorts or whatever. But then after that personal foul call that we got for the running back punching our guy, it's like it woke something up in them. And here we go. They're the defense that we knew they are. So I think that when you're playing good on good, man, it just really comes down to those small details. And I think that when Texas looks back at this game and they see all of the opportunities that they squandered, there's a lot to learn from that tape, and there's a lot to grow on. And I look forward to seeing what that looks like going into this offseason.
Hey, Tony, I want to ask you this. So you were a guy that played on a team after they won the national championship, right? And some of those guys, Jonathan Scott graduated, Justin Blaylock graduated, and it was the next wave of offensive line. Now, there was a couple of holdovers on that offensive line, right? But you were in that next offensive line group for Texas that was on really good teams. Trevor Gooseby, probably redshirt freshman Brandon Baker, right tackle. Some young guys like Neto, who this will be their first chance to really get on the field. We'll see if Cole Hudson plays center or whatnot. To kind of talk about that next group of guys and kind of what that's going to be like for those guys. Because Trevor Gooseby obviously had a start. He's played a lot due to injury, but it's still different when you become the starter and you're going up to Ohio State to play, right? Same thing with whether it's Brandon Baker or Andre Kojo. You're a first-time starter going to Ohio State to play. So talk about what's in front of those guys, how important this spring is, getting all these guys on the same page, because there's no warm-up game next year. It's at Ohio State.
That's a great question, Jerry. Listen, this is what I tell you, man. At the end of the day, those guys have to spend a lot of time together and become one cohesive unit. So when I played, it was kind of like I had a cheat code, man. I had Casey Studdard as my starting left guard. So when you talk about welcome to your NCAA moment, I mean, I got this roughneck veteran next to me, right? And so the confidence that he instilled in me and the way that he gave me the understanding of how we play this position, who we are as an offensive line, that helped. And so I think that with the experience that Gooseby has, like he's basically, between him and Cole, are going to be the leaders of this offensive line, with Cole taking the charge. So that really looks like everything that we do together, watching film, working out, eating. Like, we have to become one collective mind. And then in practice, like we every practice is golden. Like, we don't have any days off at all, because the reality is that we are unproven as a unit, right? But I think the thing is that when you look at the other side of the ball, they're going to have a good defense to go against to be able to help them sharpen each other. Like the good book says, as iron sharpens iron, one friend another, right? So they're going to have that. Now, once you get into these type of pressurized situations, man, that all comes down to coaching and how you put those guys in those type of situations in the practices, right? One of the things that I used to love that Mac did is when we played away games, he used to blast the speakers. It was so annoying, man. He used to blast the speakers all loud, right? And then we would have to line up silent counts and things like that. What was he doing? He was creating adversity, right? To see how we would respond in those particular moments, right? And then I think the biggest thing is just understanding, like, there's going to be growing pains. I foresee this offensive line playing really, really well, right? But I know that there's going to be growing pains. And I will say this to the fans of the Longhorn fans: be patient with them, because offensive line play, man, it's a beautiful symphony, but it takes time for the orchestra to be able to play all the notes and make everything sound good, right? And I get it. We're going to Ohio State. That's a big test, right? But at the same time, even though that's a big test, that's a test that they can pass depending on what they do as a collective unit. That's the biggest thing. It goes beyond the X's and O's when you're talking about this particular position, man. This is a love that you have for that individual next to you and understanding who this person is as a person and as a player. All of that stuff matters. Those are the intangible details that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to that position, right? Like, it's a lot different when I know my left guard, right, is in a situation to where his mom lives in a less than advantageous situation, and the better I play, the better it makes him look, so that he has an opportunity to get drafted to change his life and change his family's life. I'm gonna probably go a little bit harder knowing that, right?
Yeah.
Those are the intimate details that you have with the individuals that you have on the line, man. So it goes into all of that. It's not just the X's and O's.
Hey, so I want to ask you about this next. The last thing I have for you. Different quarterback, Arch Manning, different strengths versus Quinn Ewers, right? With Quinn Ewers, Sark was gonna throw more perimeter, more short game, let the guys do the work, because Quinn wasn't as good a deep ball thrower, especially outside the numbers. Back shoulder ball really wasn't in the playbook. It's going to be now. But that also means offensive line's going to have to protect a little longer for those plays to develop next year, because Arch is going to want to throw it down the field, and Sark likes to throw it down the field, and now he's got a quarterback that really likes to throw it down the field. So kind of talk about that, the differences in those quarterbacks. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, because Rod and Bobby and I have talked about it a little bit, but because Arch has the threat, and he's not – Sark going to be calling QB run game, but because he has the threat, will that hold the linebackers a step or two from getting a little less depth in their drops, which could help the intermediate over the middle passing game? Just a thought I had with Arch, kind of the differences in quarterbacks.
Yeah. So the differences in quarterbacks. When you look at Quinn had a command of the offense. He knew where to go with the football. A lot of his throws were anticipated, right? When it came to his mobility, he showed flashes at time, right? The A&M game, Arkansas, he showed a little bit of mobility. So he showed that he could move, but that's not his game, right? His game is to be able to read the defense, look at the reads and make the check downs if it's not there, right? Easier to plan for, right? When you have mobile quarterbacks like Arch, you can call the perfect defense, and what happens is that when that play breaks down offensively, now I can use another aspect of my game, which is my feet, and I can really hurt you, right? So, yeah, like, we get it. He's not going to be going out there like Lamar Jackson or anybody. We understand that, but we don't need him to. We need him to be able to pick up first downs and keep the offense going, and that's going to be an added bonus and an added repertoire to his game. And we saw it the first couple of starts that he had, right? Plays would break down. He'd roll out. He'd pick up a first down. We keep the party moving, right? So I think that does add an extra component. But I think the thing that is the biggest difference, Jerry, is the deep ball. With the type of receivers that we have, I know we lost a lot, but with Ringo coming back and some of these young guys, those guys can really go, man. And so with the ability to be able to stretch the field, to move the pocket with his legs, right? I think that's going to be an added component. When it comes to the offensive line play, I think the biggest difference is with Quinn, you know where he's going to be on his drops, right? Yeah. With Arch, it's kind of similar when I played with Pittsburgh and Big Ben. Like, I knew he's supposed to drop it 7 yards. He might drop it 8 or 9 because he's Ben. And at the end of the day, when you're playing for somebody like that, there is no anticipation with the ball gone. You block until the defensive lineman turns and starts running the other way. So that's just the reality of what it is. And look, it works out better, right? It works out better anyway, because now these guys aren't getting second chance rushes and things of that nature. So I think the mobility, the deep ball threat, and I think we're going to probably see Arch the first half of the game rely a little bit on his legs until he really just gets a grasp of the offense from the repetition standpoint. Of course, he knows it, right? Theoretically, but it's different when it's live and those guys are really humming and flying, where to go, what the reads look like, switches and things like that. That'll come later. But I can see a lot of us relying on that. And here's something that I don't think we talked about too. We get Baxter back. So if you want to talk about how we start a run game, how about we start with and no disrespect to Wisner and what those guys did, but it's a reason why Baxter was scheduled and slotted to be RB1. So when we get him back, that also gives a boost to the run game as well, and it gives more power to the offensive line also.
Hey, Tony, I got to ask you, they're going into off-season training now, and I think not this coming week, but the following week, they're back at it full time. What this time of season, what is that offensive line working on? Is it just weight training? Is it technique training? what are those, and in their mindset, what's the thought process before spring ball starts? So this like narrow window here of about a month and a half.
Yeah. So if I'm them, the first thing I'm looking for is I'm always looking to build the foundation, both physically and mentally, right? So for me, I'm not looking at the opponents. I'm looking at myself. Where were my weaknesses? Where were my flaws during the season? And then writing those down and then working on those. That's the mental game of that, right? Did I lean on my punch? Looking at, okay, how is my sets in the first quarter versus the third and fourth quarter, first and second versus the third and fourth, right? How do I respond to pressure situations if I get beat inside? Why did I get beat inside? I start really breaking down myself as a player to understand where the weaknesses are so that I can build that. So now that I have that data, now I can take that data to my strength and conditioning coaches and say, hey, look, here's some of the things that I've seen. Here's some of the things that I think I need to work on. I want to get your feedback on that as well, right? And so they give me that. Going sitting down with Coach Flood and saying, hey, these are the visions and the goals that I have individually for myself, right? How do I make that happen, right? Because obviously he has NFL experience as an offensive line coach. He knows how to get me to the next level. And the better that I am, the better we are as a unit. So that's that aspect. On the physicality side, I'm looking for flexibility. I'm looking for foot and hand speed. I might take for me. I always took martial arts and mixed martial arts in the off season, right? Because it's hand to hand combat, being able to strengthen hip drive and things of that nature. So I'm just looking at where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses, and strengthening my strengths and not focusing on the weaknesses so much, because at the end of the day, it is what it is. But if my strengths are so strong that my weaknesses don't matter, then that's the thing that I'm going to focus on to continue to make me a better player. So for me, those are the things that I'm looking at. Just for a quick breakdown, Bobby, we're looking at mentally. We want to elevate to see where we get better at on the field. And then we want to make sure that we're getting stronger off the field. And for offensive linemen, man, it's always going to be a couple of things: flexibility, core, foot speed, hand speed, and hip power. Those are the things that you need as an offensive lineman.
Thanks, Tony, for joining us. We appreciate you so much. We got more for. I was going to ask you about Kelvin Banks and Cam Williams and where you thought they might go in the NFL draft. The DJ Campbell returning. We got another guest coming up, though, so we got to get to him. But, Tony, thank you so much for everything you did during the season. I read the comments here, and everybody absolutely loves it when you join us on Wednesdays. It's Hump Day with Hills. Tony Hill. Thank you, Tony. Be good, buddy. You have a good week.
Hook 'em, love the Longhorn Nation.
Be good, bud. All right, good stuff there from Tony. Blake, we got Coach Ray Gates coming on from North Crowley here in a little bit. What else we got before then?
Well, before then, I'm going to let Jerry tell everybody about Gooder if he's ready to do so.
Well, I can get ready to do so. That's pretty easy. Sun's actually coming out in Houston today. The ice is going to melt away. Stylish, sunnies start only $25 a pair with Gooder. Why Gooder? That's one reason. No slip, no bounce, all polarized, and it's all fun with Gooder. If you drop them in the ocean and you lose them, well, another pair is just $25. That's happened to many people before, but those are $350 Ray-Bans. 1-year warranty. I got to read it. 30-day free returns. I never needed it. There's 3 new high-performance styles. All 3 frames have UV 400 polarized lenses. High-performance sunglasses designed to make you feel like the best athlete of all time. Who doesn't need that? That's the Bolt G, the Bug G, and Astro G, in honor of Billy Wagner going to the Hall. The Astro G, shield sunglasses that prove the sky isn't the limit. Nothing is the limit. Epic is a lifestyle, fully adjustable nose piece, no slip, temple grips, anti-fog coating. If you want to support the show and try a pair, Gooder is giving On Texas Football all caps listeners free shipping. You can go to gooder.com/OnTexas and use that code On Texas all caps for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can throw that away, and 100% satisfaction, which I personally guarantee. Again, that's gooder.com/OnTexas all caps. You'll also see those UT Gooders around Bevo Boulevard in DKR, and they will be out for the spring game. So you might as well get your pair for that too.
There you go. And I also want to let everyone out there know about Rocket Money. You sign up for something, you forget about it after the trial period ends, and then you're charged month after month after month. The subscriptions are there, but you're not using them. Don't worry, you're not alone. I do it, and just about everyone else does it too. In fact, I learned this week that 85% of people have at least one paid subscription going unused each month. Thanks to Rocket Money, though, I can see all of my subscriptions in one place and cancel the ones I'm not using anymore. And now I'm saving more money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. The subscription part is absolutely awesome. That's what I use it for the most. You see all of them in one place. You know exactly where your money's going. For the ones you don't want anymore, Rocket Money will help you cancel them as well. They have over 5 million users and have saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/gameon today. That's rocketmoney.com/gameon, GAMEON.
Hey, while we wait for Coach Gates, we're going to go back to recruiting for a second because there was a second 2026 offer made, extended yesterday, and it was Johnny Nansen offered junior linebacker Tristan Phillips out of Ventura, California. Oregon commitment. He is 6'3", 215. Again, we're finding the type, Bobby, with Johnny Nansen. Texas needs bigger, longer limb guys. He can really close. This kid can really close on the football. I'm here to tell you, Oregon is dominating out west in 26. The guys they have committed are all really, really good. So this kid out of Ventura, California, Johnny Nansen, extended an offer to him on Tuesday. I actually exchanged messages with Phillips yesterday, and he says he wants to get out to Texas and take a look. Obviously, he's committed to Oregon. We'll see. He will not be on campus this weekend for Junior Day, but another really good linebacker off the West Coast, out of the West Coast that Texas offered. I mean, this kid, he's physical. He can close. He changes directions really well, got enough arm length. And again, Oregon commitment that Texas offered yesterday out west, and I think this kid's going to be a really good college player.
Second Oregon commit offer of the last 2 days, by the way, following on the offensive lineman, Jerry, that was there. Hey, Jerry, Coach Gates is back screen. Could you take a minute and call him and help him get his video set up, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
We'll get that. We'll come back to you here in a second, Jerry. The thing that Jerry's mentioning here with Oregon on the West Coast, USC for years has been the dominant player on the West Coast. I mean, it's been that way. Oregon has always had good success in California, don't get me wrong. But the idea that Oregon now is kind of superseding USC out west is very legitimate, in my opinion, and one that we need to watch for, actually. I think we have Coach Gates now, Jerry. Come on back in, and then we'll bring Coach Gates in here as well. Here he comes.
Jerry, I'm going to let you introduce him while I bring him in.
All right. Well, I don't know. The best way I can introduce Coach Gates is National Coach of the Year. Man, how's that feel, Coach? 43 years at North Crowley, 42-2. I mean, 42-2. Coach, we had Scott Surratt on last week. I mean, now we got National Coach of the Year. Coach Gates, thanks for joining us, and congrats on the 6A state championship.
Well, appreciate you guys for having me on. It's an honor to be here with you guys this morning. It's an honor to be recognized as one of the best coaches out, in the country. And, as I said before, it's one of those awards that, you don't get without having, a great staff behind you and great players. And so I just get an opportunity to be the figurehead, face of the program of the award with the work of so many others. So I'm grateful to be here.
Hey, Coach, we have some people from Shiner that are always checking in. Part of this, when you have as many subscribers and watchers as we do, they're from everywhere. So for people that don't know, talk about your background, what led you to North Crowley, to this place you're in today.
Oh man, that's a journey in itself. As you said, I mean, I'm from a little bitty small town, Shiner, Texas, born and raised. If you know anything about small town football, Shiner is in it every single year. So just being able to be a part of a community where football is king, and people know us because of that and Shiner Bach. It's a huge part of who I am today. And so I had an opportunity to leave Shiner and play college ball. Played 2 years at Cisco. Played 2 years at Tarleton State for Todd Whitten, who's come back, and he's the head coach there now, and got them rolling as well. And then I went off and played arena football after college. Played that for about 3 years, and decided to get into coaching. I knew I was always going to one day be a coach, and I started out at West Texas A&M under Don Carthel, and we were able to flip, West Texas A&M into a powerhouse in that time that we were there. Spent 3 years there. First high school job was Tascosa in the Panhandle with Coach Ken Plunk, who was still the head coach there. Left there 4 years. Went with Chad Dunham to be a defensive coordinator in Dumas. I did that for a year. Did that for a year, and was able to get a job at Cedar Ridge Round Rock with Todd Ford for 2 years, and then he left, and Sean Bell came in, and I was with him for a year, and Sean Bell got the Baylor job, and he was at Baylor for a couple of years, and now I think he's at Houston. And I had an opportunity to get to Cedar Hill there with Carlos Lynn, and I was there for 5 years. Was a special teams coordinator, was a defensive coordinator there, and my last year was 2022, and I got offered the job here at North Crowley, and been here ever since.
So you kind of went from West Texas and made that trek into the Metroplex and got integrated into that whole the Metroplex Mafia, as I like to call it.
Yes, sir.
Still coaches. Hey, congratulations on the state championship. Just awesome. Y'all had some big games prior to the state championship that got you to the top. You've got a number of players that are received national awards. Quentin Gibson go to Colorado, tremendous year. Jonathan Cunningham, the linebacker, going to Texas. You got players next year. I want to talk to you about a little something else. Jerry was at one of your practices earlier this year, before y'all started playing. And you had made a deal with your team, that if they scored on their first possession, you'd break out and get all of them some pizza.
Yeah.
I remember you loading up a truck in the flatbed of a truck and bringing a bunch of Dominoes out there to them.
Yeah.
That reminded me of a couple of high school coaches. Alan Waddell down at Lamarck. When I grew up in Houston, and so I used to see him all the time. He would get his kids popsicles in the middle of the Houston heat, right?
Yes, sir.
Bob Shipley talked about making football fun for the kids. There's your Dominoes right there. I don't even know what it is. I'm giving them a commercial, coach. But my point is, good coaches have a way to get the fundamentals across, but also make it personal with the kids. And I just want to tell you, thank you for doing that, not just for yourself and obviously what happened for you, but for the kids themselves. They react and they love that sort of stuff, man. And I'm happy for you and happy what all happened to you, bud. I really am.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Why has that always been something you've done, or did you learn from other coaches to do that sort of stuff, or what's your thought process there?
Well, we're always trying to build, team camaraderie. We're building our culture. And for us, we do a lot for our kids outside of football. I have a huge smoker, and I'll pull it up, behind the field house, and I'll cook out for the kids. And, our coaches help pitch in for that. And it's just something that we kind of started at Cedar Hill with a new group coming in to Cedar Hill, trying to build those relationships with our kids. And, what we found was whenever we had an opportunity to sit down and just break bread with our kids and we would eat, they would kind of let down, their walls, if you will. And, everybody just had, such a good time. And we found out a lot about our kids in those moments. And we were able to kind of deepen our bond and our connection with our kids. And it's something that, just travel with us. And so, we're going to do that. We're going to show them how much we care about them and we love them. Love is an action, and we're always expressing that action for our kids. And I think that's one of the reasons why, they're willing to run through a brick wall for us.
Hey, Coach, I love it. That's awesome. And by the way, thank you for always being first class whenever we visit media, because you got a lot of media people that come by, and I always want to say thank you for that. I got to ask, obviously, Jonathan Cunningham is now on campus in Austin. Some people in the chat have asked, what should Texas fans expect to see from Jonathan Cunningham? Kind of your thoughts on him as a player and as a prospect.
Well, first of all, it always starts with, recruiting kids that, are winners. And, he's from a winning program. Since I've been here, he's been on varsity and he has been a part of, this 42-2 run that we've been on in 3 years. And so he's played a lot of football. He understands the magnitude of the moment. The moments aren't too big for him because he's been in big time moments. And we've asked a lot of him as a player. And he's a guy that, can handle all of that. So, that checks a lot of boxes for guys whenever they're on the recruiting trail and they're looking for guys to bring into their programs, especially a program like Texas that has a culture and has, rebuilt Texas back to what, it should be. And so, number one, you're getting a guy that's coming in that's ready to compete and showcase what his skill set is. And then a guy on the field, he's very, very long. He's very rangy, super athletic. Has the ability to cover guys, in the passing game, can run with tight ends, things of that nature. And then a guy that will, find and seek contact. He's not turning down contact. So they have a great football player in Jonathan Cunningham. As a guy that's kind of a Swiss Army knife that can do a lot of things. And, depending on what they want to do as far as his body and how much weight they want to put on him, he could play potentially a couple of different positions.
Coach, you look from afar, Steve Sarkisian's program. I mean, obviously you're not there every day, but you see what the product they produce on Saturdays. You've been in the college ranks before yourself. What do you see from Texas that you like right now? Just taking it a little bit a different tact here. What do you see from Texas that you admire or think is going in the right direction?
Well, I think they've done a great job of, surrounding the state with guys, from high school that are really well respected, and I think it starts with having those in-road connections in the state of Texas with having guys like Chris Gilbert. He just called me, a couple of moments ago. And the reason why I'm sitting in this seat here at North Crowley has a lot to do with Coach Gilbert. And so having a guy that can walk in any room in the state of Texas, and has the respect of high school coaches is very important, especially in the recruiting world. And then you add a guy in a local area from you guys down there, a good friend of mine. We actually played arena football together, Jamal Finner, and you have a lot of guys like that have connectivity with Texas high school coaches. That's very important to us in the state, and then just their ability to be, so open, allowing guys like us to come, and to pick their brains and to sit in with them. That's first class. Sarkisian will be here today at 11:30 to see, a couple of players, and he's a very personable guy. He doesn't. Sometimes you're around head coaches and they kind of big time you, and he's not like that. And he understands the importance of that. And then I think third, they've done a hell of a job of just recruiting, not just the state of Texas, but they've recruited nationally and they've cherry picked the guys that they needed to get. And so when you look at Texas, you get really excited about the type of talent that they have in the room. I can remember back, 5-6 years ago, when the cupboard was bare, and they were, having to make up things with, not the best ingredients, but, now they're in a situation where they have some of the best ingredients and they can bake, some of the best, cakes, if you will, with what they have. And so I'm really excited about, their opportunity going forward to be in the national championship game was very close. I was there at the game, rooting and pulling for them, but, we're really close to being back where everybody wants us to be. So they're on the right track with a lot of Texas high school coaches and a lot of our athletes in the state.
You got this segue thing down. You went right into my question. If I don't ask about John Turntine, this chat will eat me for lunch, okay? I think the guy's a great football player, and you've watched him grow up. And obviously the other guy Texas is going to come to look at today is Aaron Bradshaw, your junior safety, who's really rising. Talk about Turntine and then Aaron Bradshaw a little bit, because he wasn't really on the recruiting radar this year, but his junior season's putting him on it fast. Ashley.
Well, when you talk about Turntine, he's such a unique talent. You don't find a lot of guys like him. Often in the high school ranks, you get a guy that's super talented, and he's missing maybe the quality of just the mental capacity of the game, or, very, very, very smart, football player, but maybe not, as gifted and talented as you wish, him to be. With John Turntine, you get both of those things. You get a guy who's a 4.1 GPA, student, a guy who for a long time wanted to be a neurosurgeon, and super, super, super athletic, offensive lineman. We put on GPS on him, and he ran over 18 miles per hour, after a practice. So you don't find that very often. But what's probably most intriguing about him and his character is that John Turntine is elite in everything that he does. And so if, he's on the football field, you're going to get his best. If he's in the classroom, you're going to get his best. If I pick him up and say, hey, we got a speaking engagement, you're going to get his best. He's just a guy that, will never underwhelm you by just who he is. And, a lot of that has to do with his parents. His mom and his dad are both D1 athletes, so they understand everything that he's going through right now and what he will go through. So he has a great foundation moving forward. Aaron Bradshaw is a 6'3", 185-pound safety who is very, very talented. I think one of the important things about him and what makes him very, very good is that he's kind of, an extension of the coaching staff, on the football field. And so for us and what we do defensively, we put a lot on our players. We'll come in and put the top 10 to 15 formations, on the board, and we'll have auto checks for every single one of those formations. And, he's one of those guys that memorizes those auto checks, and he knows what, the safeties are doing, the corners are doing, the linebackers are doing, and what the D-line is doing. So he's a huge extension of, us on the field as a coach. And when you have that type of ability, the things that you can do are unlimited because he can help get guys, in the right position. A big physical guy, and probably one of the most important things that he does is he goes and he attacks the ball. And he did that for us in the playoff stretch. So we're really excited about, his future and his growth in this offseason.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. I've got one final request, and this actually comes from my wife. She wants to see the trophy. Do you have the trophy there?
The state championship trophy?
Yeah, she wants to see the trophy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's proud to go show this now.
Hey, that's a hot commodity around here. So we just had our parade
last year, or the day I was there last couple of weeks ago was the first day back. There it is. And all the players were wearing their state championship medals. I thought it was so cool. And Coach had his on. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's been a hot commodity around here. We had our parade on Saturday, and so they took, the championship trophy to our stadium where we had our parade. And after we got done, people from our community came down and they were able to take, pictures with the trophy and with their favorite players. So it was a special moment for us. And,
awesome.
It's one of those surreal moments that, you wake up and you go, man, I'm a state champion. And I don't know if it'll ever settle in. But, we're back to the grind. We're working. We're trying to figure out how we can do it again. We got a lot of great pieces and we got a lot of great kids. And so it's going to be a fun off season for us, because we definitely want to be mentioned up there with the greats, every single year. So we got some work to do.
And maybe time for a different time, different conversation. But for the chat that didn't know, North Crowley got knocked out by Duncanville 2 years ago. And I know there was a motivation all off season to get back and play those guys and win that game. Texas is going to be doing the same thing all off season, Coach. They lost to Ohio State. And they start the season, though, a little different with Ohio State and Columbus. So there's some similarities there. I know you got to go, but maybe we talk about that, how that motivated your team, because this Texas team is going to be going through the same thing this spring and summer.
Absolutely. It's levels to it. And for us, it was a stepping stone. It was an opportunity for us to have, to learn and to grow from. And for a lot of our kids, playing in that game, a year ago, it was a different type of measuring stick for us. And so going into that game, it gave us a lot of information. It gave our kids a lot of information about how we need to attack the offseason and how we need to get better and improve. And by doing so, it allowed us to be ready for the moment when we had our opportunity this year and our kids were awesome in that game, man. It was an unbelievable game. And we felt like if we could beat, a Duncanville team, that we could beat, anybody, And so our off season was geared towards that, and so we're trying to figure it out now. It's one type of energy, to beat the team and to get to the state game and to win it all, and it takes a different type of energy and mindset, to stay there. And so we're swimming in, uncharted territory as far as what we need to do to stay here, but we'll figure it out fast. And our kids, they're showing up every day in the mornings, weight room's packed, they're getting after it. And so they're motivated to go do it again. And so I'm liking what I'm seeing early in our offseason.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Coach Gates, for taking the time, because Coach Gates has college coaches coming through all day, every day right now.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll see you this spring. I won't bug you until the spring, but I can't wait to see all your guys this spring. Thank you, Coach.
And thank you for having us on.
All right.
Congratulations again, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, good stuff. That's 2 state championship coaches we've had on now. He went through the gauntlet this year and made it work for him, man. Good job by North Crowley. Getting over the top too. That's not easy. All right. There's no tougher division than that one. And Ray Gates, not only a good coach though, and he got the most out of his kids. That's why that whole pizza thing, it just reminded me of so many good coaches that I've seen through the years, whether it's pizza or popsicles or whatever. They try to make it more than just about working hard on the field.
Yeah.
They try to, I remember going and watching Rudy, the movie with a team, with a coach one time. He's, I try to have them watch a movie together. It's that sort of stuff, that makes high school football fun and brings out the best in each other, I think.
I'm going to tell one more quick story, and then we're going to reset the show, talk about the new 2025 laid off official visit. So I've been through there a few times because obviously they have a ton of players, Cunningham, John Turntime. I watch Aaron Bradshaw, if Texas offers him today or in the future here coming up. Really good player there at safety. But so this is when in my experience doing this, when you really have great command, respect from your kids. So I went through there. It was an off-season day. It was I'm trying to think. It may have been. It was before practice began, but it was during an athletic period. And Coach Gates had a couple of meetings that popped up. So it was his staff and his players were in the indoor. I didn't even see Coach Gates that day I was there. But even though he wasn't there, it looked exactly the same from his players being locked in effort and being locked in on their assignment during that athletic period, because it was a teaching day. It was kind of walk through before a scrimmage. But that's when you have the respect of your kids. When you're not there and the effort doesn't change. That he's done an amazing job there.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, Jerry, we got to before we get going, I want to come back and talk about the player Texas offered again. If you're just now joining us, Texas offered another 2025 prospect. So this would be this recruiting class. Yesterday, Johnny Nansen was out near Nevada and found a kid that they wanted to offer. We'll talk about him. But first, before we get there, we need to mention the men's basketball team, Jerry, coming up with a big win against Missouri yesterday. Number 22 ranked Missouri, by the way, beating the Tigers 61-53. Jerry having a little coughing attack there. But, Jerry, seriously, Rodney Terry, that was a huge win for him, considering the start to this conference play. And we talked about it. He's got to make the tournament, we think. This was a big win for him overall. Every game from here on out, because where this conference is a quad 1 or quad 2 win or opportunity to get a win. Quad 1, quad 2 game. So right now, if you go to NCAA.net after that game, Texas is actually 33rd in NCAA.net. So they are comfortably, despite being 2-4, in the NCAA tournament right now. Comfortably. I say that, but Texas 7-11 will probably get you in. 8-10 definitely will get you in this conference this year. But this was a huge win because Missouri was a hot team. Obviously, neither team could throw it in the ocean last night, right? It was the opposite of most SEC games. It was a really ugly offensive game. I think teams combined 8 of 42 from 3, which is out of character.
So neither one had a good shooting game. But Missouri, for those that don't keep up, had won at Florida last week 83-82. And they were on a 4-game winning streak. They were 4-1 in the SEC. So any win you get's a good win. I don't care if neither team could throw it in the ocean. It was a must-win game for Texas. They're sitting there at 1-4. And now you're sitting there at 2-4, and A&M's coming into town Saturday. Huge game. A&M's really good this year. Buzz Williams did a great job. These could be two of the lower scoring games Texas has in the SEC because A&M wants to grind defensively on you. They want to play off the boards, and they want to keep that score in these high 60s, low 70s on the road. And we'll see if Texas can do that and make enough shots. But this game, it was a must-win game for me because if you go 1-5 and you look at the rest of the schedule, you start saying, can you actually get the 7 wins and make the tournament? Now they're going to have to run off a 2 or 3 game win streak at some point to get to 7 or 8. But now that you beat Missouri, you have a chance with A&M coming to town. And you need to win that A&M game too. One, you lost by 20 the first go round. Look, that's never good to lose to A&M twice or home and away in the same season. But after that, you go see old Chris Beard and Ole Miss. And the rest of that schedule is really difficult. I mean, you have Alabama, you have Kentucky. I mean, you just look down the schedule. Like I said, it's all quad 1. A couple of quad 2s. Arkansas in the quad 2. They lost Boogie Flan for the year. They're a freshman point guard, and they were struggling already. So it's quad 1 or quad 2 games the rest of the way. That was a must-win game. They need to beat A&M to get the 3 wins. If they can beat A&M and get the 3 wins, aside from beating A&M, you start to see the path to the NCAA tournament for them. Before last night, I didn't see the path. If they had lost that game, we'd be on here saying, I don't see it. I would see more 5-13, 4-14. So they've now given themselves a chance to make the NCAA tournament with that win last night, considering the gauntlet that's in front of them.
Just talking to people that are in the Austin area or want to go out to a basketball game at all this year, I'd suggest Saturday for you. Aggies come to town, big game for the Longhorns. So if you got a chance to get out to Moody this year, this one might be the one for you. Big game coming up for the Longhorns. Happy to mention that right now.
Hi, Jerry. Why don't you tell everybody the path to smelling better with Mando?
Man, boy, I'm not saying I needed to do, but I can tell you how to get there because, baby, I smell like roses every day, even after a workout, right, Bull? Okay, here you go. What is Mando? Well, Mando is, they sent me the package of the stuff, and my son saw it and said, this stuff's awesome, and took it. Okay, so that one tells you it's a great product. It's a whole body deodorant, safe to use anywhere on your body. That's your pits. That's your balls. That's your thigh folds if you got them. Belly buttons, butt cracks, and feet. Butt cracks and feet sounds weird saying those next to each other. Created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Mando deodorant products options are a solid deodorant stick formulated and powered by mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts. Who doesn't need that? Spray deodorant, aluminum free and ideal for hard to reach places. I know all of y'all are looking down thinking about those hard to reach places. Well, they got you covered. All products, baking soda free and paraben free. You can choose from a variety of fresh scents. I have Bobby for the bourbon leather, Clover Woods, Mount Fuji's probably Blake, and I'm going to go with Pro Sport because you still think you're an athlete even when you're not. Clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's grundle odor level was 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average grundle odor level is a 0 out of 10. Who doesn't want your grundle to smell great? Why? Want to try America's #1 whole body deodorant formula right now? You can find them in Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the countries. For the best deals, though, go to shopmando.com, and that is use the starter pack. For the starter pack, use code ONTEXAS, all caps, at shopmando.com. That equates to 40% off that starter pack, $5 off a starter pack at shopmando.com. Take care of your grundle because nobody else will.
Everybody loves the great grundle. All right. Well, that's a tough act to follow here, but we're going to jump into some super chats before we reset. And Brandon Huey says, crazy that before the college football playoff system, Ryan Day would have been fired after that Michigan loss. That would have cost them the national championship. What's y'all's thoughts?
I don't know if he's definitely going to get fired. If he would have lost to Tennessee first game out, I think he would have been fired. Yep. I really do. But they rebounded and had a great just a tremendous run in the playoffs, by the way. I mean, other than Texas and Notre Dame, they beat the tar out of Oregon and Tennessee. Relatively close games against Texas and Notre Dame. But they were the best team in college football. I think they had the most skill talent. Yeah. You want to just put it out there? I think they had two of the better running backs. They had one of the better quarterbacks. They had a couple of the better receivers. And then they had a guy like Caleb Downs on the back end and two defensive ends that were pretty good. I just think overall they may have had the best talent. We were talking about this yesterday, Jerry. They may have 16 guys drafted.
Yeah.
Texas with 11 or 12 or 13, whatever the number will be for the Longhorns, that gives you a sense of exactly how talented they were. But he's got to, I will say this. He's got to beat Michigan next year. You can win a national championship and get a bye for a year, but you lose 5 straight years to Michigan at Ohio State. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's got to win if he's coaching college football next year, by the way.
Yeah.
His name's going to come up on some pro radars, just like it did Steve Sarkisian before the Longhorns extended Sark. So we'll see what happens with Ryan Day and the Buckeyes, but I'm my hat's off to them. They played good football.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfect, but they played hard. They had a really good defense, which I like to see. So hats off to Ohio State. They deserve the national championship.
Sarah McCoy has a follow-up. And should Ryan Day seek a job in the NFL? Look, if it's me, if I have the opportunity, I'm going to the NFL this year. I thought Jim Harbaugh was obviously he had a show cause coming. He really had to get out of there. But even if he didn't, I think he would have headed off to the NFL. And Ohio State's a really difficult job when you lose to Michigan. It's a difficult job when you win. It's a stressful environment. These Michigans, Ohio States, Texas, Alabama, that's just the way it is. It's stressful when you're winning. If he has an opportunity to go to the NFL, I mean, if I'm him, I make that move because look, they recruit top 5 classes every year, but they're going to lose probably 10 defensive starters. Sometimes you got to know when to leave. If he can get an NFL job, if I'm Ryan Day, I'm going right now. You can always come back to college in 4 years. But, look, let's just say Texas goes and beats them next year to start the season. And it's a freshman quarterback, redshirt freshman quarterback in saying, a lot of these things are forgotten quickly that you won a national championship. If he lost to Texas and Columbus and lost at Michigan next year, they're going to hate him all over again. That's just the nature of that job. So if it's me and I can get an NFL job, I'm probably saying, man, I got a title. I'm moving on. That's a brutally stressful job, even when you're winning. I can always come back to college in 3 or 4 years and get any job I want because I won a national championship at Ohio State. That's the way I'd look at it, but that doesn't mean I'm right.
Hey, Jerry, AJ Tuatele, because
a
lot of people pick up about 15, 30 minutes in. Rewind and tell everybody about AJ Tuatele, the most recent offer, because that's the thing that we're following most closely. You said you talked to his coach.
Yeah.
And he may be visiting Texas this weekend. So I wanted to update that for people that joined us late. Tell them about the 2025 linebacker.
Yeah, so signed with Washington State, is a mid 3-star ranked player. Obviously, he's not when you watch the tape, right? That's kind of the problem in our industry is not a lot of senior year evaluations all the way down on kids. This kid had 196 tackles, 39 tackles for loss. Somebody asked in the chat, he had 5 sackles this year too. So for that person that asked how many sackles he had 5 sackles, which is great after Amando Reed. But look, he signed with Washington State over Arizona. When Jake Dickert, the head coach, took the Wake Forest job, he got out of that letter of intent. USC immediately brought him in for an official visit when they could last weekend in January. People consider on the West Coast USC the team to beat because he was staying on the West Coast early in his first go-round in his recruitment. Texas is scheduled per the coaching staff there at Mojave High. Johnny Nansen offered yesterday. They're scheduled to have him on campus for an official visit this weekend. Obviously, if that happens and USC can't get him to shut it down before, then this recruitment could go either to USC or Texas, right? But USC's considered the favorite. If him and his family get down for the official visit, we'll see what happens. But a guy that I think is on tape is tremendous, really diagnoses well, and then he closes well. He's got long arms. And that coaching staff, the head coach there is extremely high on this guy, like extremely high. Thinks he is one of the most underrated guys. Thinks he is he said, high motor everything. And you don't make 196 tackles, 39 tackles for loss without being a high motor individual. That just doesn't happen. Kind of like Donovan Webb, the safety at Panther Creek. But this guy is a tremendous framed linebacker, long arms, 6'3", 205. Obviously, you can see he has the frame to weigh 230 pounds. He's going to have that SEC size if he chooses to go to the SEC. But really rangy, can drop in coverage. But his closing speed to the football, very similar to Madden Faramo. That physicality and closing right there on a ball, very similar to Madden Faramo. I can see why Johnny Nansen liked him for the same reasons he loved Madden Faramo.
I love that patience he showed there, and then the explosion to the ball.
Yep. That's instinctive linebacker.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Absolutely.
He didn't false step. He didn't react too quickly and get himself out of position. This guy is a natural backer, man.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Jerry. All right, that is AJ Tuatelli out of Las Vegas, Nevada. I need to tell you guys about our friend Adam Lowy real quick before we get to some super chats. Adam and his group at the Lowy Law Firm have been helping injured Texans for more than 20 years. If you have been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, including an ATV or an 18-wheeler, give Adam and his group a call, loweylawfirm.com. He'll help you out. Thank you, Adam, for your sponsorship of Coffee and Football every Wednesday, as well as State of the Program, which is coming up a little bit later today. That's Adam Lowy of the Lowy Law Firm.
All right, Bobby, as you said, we got a couple of super chats that we need to get to, and this one from our friend Jack. Thank you, Jack, as always. He says, congrats to Bobby and On Texas Football for an awesome first year. Best in the business.
Yes, it's been, and it hasn't been a year on video, but it has been a year almost to the day that we've had a website, on TexasFootball.com. Jerry, myself, Jerry, myself, CJ Vogel, Blake, you're on there every day as well. We try to answer questions and bring y'all new content. As always, I mentioned yesterday that we're trying to always get better here. We're going to try to add to that, and hopefully as soon as today. So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully an announcement a little bit today about some other things we've got coming on TexasFootball.com.
Hey, Blake, couple of things I want to hit on here.
Yeah,
Jason Watch, down payment for the Watch With Us Texas Ole Miss Hoops games. I will do that. Texas versus Chris Beard at Ole Miss. Why don't we have a Watch With Us? We can talk football, recruiting, whatever. I think that's a good plan, Mr. Watts. All right, David Keith Williams, Mayo Hamilton. This might be a broken record type question, but do you think Tyler Atkinson and Dylan Berryman are most important defensive players for Texas in the recruiting class? I think Bobby and I might have different answers, and this what makes it fun. Look, for me on defense, ever since I saw Jamion Winfield, and we showed the picture earlier with Sark going by the school yesterday, ever since I saw him a couple of weeks ago at Richardson High, and the tape was one thing, to see him in person. Look, Jamion Winfield, it's not going to shock me. If he goes out and camps and puts up big testing numbers and stuff, he may end up being a 5-star prospect. He is 6'3". Guys, he looks like he weighs 275, right? He weighs 297. He's got 11-inch hands. He's got an 80-plus inch wingspan. He is just getting into a off-season weight program for the first time in his life, and he's a naturally a 315 power clean guy. He just hasn't even scratched the surface. He is an athletic-looking kid. He is explosive. He's got the length. He's got the natural strength and physicality. He's going to be pretty scary to me one day as a defensive lineman if he keeps going. He's from Meridian, Mississippi, moved to Richardson High in July. He was at A&M last weekend. Texas working to get him on campus this weekend. He's a guy for me. Tyler Atkinson, a great linebacker. Tashard Choice and staff are going to be by there next week. Georgia's probably the team to beat, but he's been to Texas twice. He'll be back to Texas for an official visit for people in the family, probably maybe back in the spring. So Auburn, Ohio State, Notre Dame, you name it, Tennessee, Clemson, they're in there for Tyler Atkinson, but Texas is swinging away. Jalen Lott at corner, Bobby, has a chance, I think, to be an elite player. So he might be in there as well when you talk about those top defensive guys in this class.
I love Jalen Lott. So I'll be shocked if he's not a 5-star, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
Just got a lot of natural ability, man, and makes plays at the same time. That's one of those things, man.
All right, guys. We got time for just another question or two, and I think this is one that is on everybody's mind as they are fiending for some more Texas football here. Lando Griffin says, any idea on a date for the spring game? Bobby?
Here's what I have and what I know. April 20th was the spring game last year. And so what would that look like this year? That would put Texas, that would probably put it either the 19th or the 26th. Okay. So I would probably lean towards the 19th for the spring game. It's not set in stone. Texas has not put this out, so it's just a guess. So either the 19th or the 26th. A couple other notes that kind of play into that. Spring break for Texas students is the 17th through the 22nd. So there won't be any practices that week. It's usually a 3-week to 4-week window after that when Texas has the spring game, which would tell me, again, it likely means the spring game is on the 19th of April. But Sark has his druthers, may move it up, may move it back for a number of different reasons, including the spring portal window being one of those things this year. The Texas relays is another thing that they typically work around a little bit.
I just looked that up, Bob. I just looked that up while you were talking because I knew we'd bring that up. That's March 28th and March 29th as Texas relays.
Yep. So that's where that's at right now. But no, Lando, unfortunately, we don't have definitive tons. I will say this. We're going to do something around the spring game this year and hope everybody can meet up and have a little fun, talk a little Texas football as well. So that's where we're at right now, Lando.
So, by the way, so I'm looking. Who has some spring game dates out right now? Florida is April 12th, and they started a week earlier in Texas last year. That makes sense. Auburn, Georgia, and Oklahoma are all on April 12th. The only one I see that's publicized for the 19th right now is Texas Tech.
There you go. We are going to close with this one, and it's a big one here from Aloha Travel. I got to thank them for that big super chat. And they say, aloha, fellas. Just wanted to express my gratitude for all the work you guys have done this past year. You made it that much more enjoyable to be a Texas fan. Now, talk me off the ledge about this offense. Our skill positions need an upgrade via the portal to help Arch.
I'll just say that. I talked to, and Jerry, I called you right after I had this conversation last night. I talked to a former Texas staffer last night that was there while Quinn and Arch were. He has no qualms saying that Arch Manning is going to be a great quarterback for the Longhorns. I mean, zero. So if anybody is worried about Arch Manning eventually being a great player for Texas, this guy was like, that's not a question inside the building. The question inside the building is, when is he going to be a great player? Will it be right out of the gate? Will it be late in his first season? As he gets 5, 6, 7, 8 games under his belt, and all of a sudden at the end of the year, he's playing like a future pro, or is it going to take a full year? They don't know that, but they know something really, really good is coming. So take quarterback and understand that there may be a natural progression of sorts that he undergoes, getting used to the speed of the game and all that stuff that may happen out of the gate. Happens with every quarterback, right? But they have no question on that staff, apparently, about his ability and what he will be. The second piece, as far as the other pieces around him, I agree. Like Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore, two really good receivers. They need a third. Is Parker Livingstone that third? That's a little bit of a guess because he hasn't proven it yet. Or did they go to the portal? I don't know. Tight end. Jordan Washington and Spencer Shannon are now next guys up. Well, Jordan Washington is going to be a redshirt freshman or a true sophomore. I can't remember if he
Redshirt freshman. Yeah.
or not. But my point is, that's some young guys. You have Cedric Baxter and Trey Wisner back. Well, Wisner proved himself this year, but he also wasn't the big back Texas needed. So we have to see if Cedric Baxter is that guy. I agree with Aloha Traveler that some proven firepower for the offense from the portal would be really welcome. And I don't know if that's a receiver. I don't know if that's a tight end. I don't know if that's a running back. But some proven firepower, because you're losing a touchdown score in Jaden Blue, right? That's a big loss, in my opinion. Matthew Golden was the go-to guy at receiver this year. Isaiah Bond early in the year, go-to guy. So I'm with you. Give me a little more firepower if you can find it in the spring portal window. Give me a little more firepower.
Yeah, and one of those freshman receivers, and we're not saying we'll have a Ryan Wingo season, but I think statistically Jamie French could, right? They could in a talented receiver core. But yeah, I think a speed receiver. There's two things I'm watching with Arch that he's going to have to do to end up being a great quarterback, because there's no great quarterbacks that do these two things: deep, late, middle. I'm interested to see when he settles in as a starter at quarterback at Texas. In the time he's played so far, there's been too much deep late and late middle to be a great quarterback. Nobody's a great quarterback that does those two things. He's going to have to develop away from those two things. And I think in time that happens. The question is, when does it happen? Because the deep late and late middle, that's not going to work long term. And I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player. He's going to be a very good player. But when does he develop away from that?
When does the clock speed up for him mentally?
Yeah.
I think that's fair. And that's what I'm saying. That's what the guy was talking about. He's like, I don't know. It may happen day one and over spring ball and into fall practice. It may happen game 7.
Yeah.
He just said, but there's zero question that he's going to be a really, really good football player for Texas.
Hey, let's end with this, because it's kind of a follow-up. Do we beat Georgia this year? Who wins the game? Way too early to see. But I will say this. I think Georgia has heavier losses than Texas this year. I mean, if you look at what they lost, they lose Jalen Walker, great player on defense. Great, not good, great player. Mikael Williams, Malachi Starks, 3 first-rounders on defense, gone. They lose Warren Brinson, a couple of other bigs inside. They lose Chambliss, outside backer. They're going to lose. They lose a lot off that defense. Then offensively, Etienne went pro. Fairchild went pro at left guard. Tate Ratledge was a senior. Right tackle's a senior. They have obviously Carson Beck's moved on. Gunnar Suckman has 1 start under his belt, which will help. But they have a lot to replace off their team as well. So it's going to be interesting. Georgia lost a lot of impact guys on defense, and they've recruited really well. They need to have a good off season off the field, obviously, because that cost them this season. We'll see how that goes for them. But Georgia lost a lot. If you look around at that team, I would think some Georgia fans prior to the season were saying this should be our year, Bobby. This should be our year. We have Carson Beck in year 2. We have all these experienced future first rounders on defense. We have better players at wide receiver. And now they had to kick Ra Thomas off. Colby Young got in trouble. So they didn't end up having their 2 probable best guys. ETN coming in and a really talented offensive line. But Georgia fans thought this was going to be the year for them again. It didn't happen, and now they got to deal with probably the most defensive big-time losses they've had since 2021.
I don't see Gunnar Stockton beating Texas. I'll just put it not a second time. And I'll add this. They did add Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas as receivers out of the portal.
Yeah.
But I don't, even though that game's in Athens, I don't see Gunnar Stockton beating a lot. I think if Gunnar Stockton's their quarterback, they're going to lose 3 games this year. That's my opinion. We'll see. Maybe he turns into, Stetson Bennett, and he's kind of maneuvers them, and that may be his proxy and what he needs to be for them to win. But we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
They got to replace 3 first-rounders on defense. I don't care how well you recruit, man. That's 3 different level guys too. That's edge, linebacker, safety. 3 high-level guys.
Tough task.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I want to thank Adam, along with Rocket Money, Mando, and Gooder for sponsoring today's show. Thank you all for tuning in. The great questions, the super chats. Be sure to head on over to ontexasfootball.com. If you're not a member, become one very easily. Use promo code OTFOG. Get a full year for $49.95. You can't beat that again. Promo code OTFOG at ontexasfootball.com. And we would also appreciate if you'd hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime that we go live, post content. And that way you don't miss anything like what we'll have later today, Bobby, and I'll let you tell folks about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got State of the Program coming up. We also have a little site announcement for you guys coming up around 1 o'clock this afternoon. And hope you guys enjoy what we have to say there for the future of On Texas football overall. Thanks also to Ray Gates for coming in and hanging out with us. Tony Hills. Really was fun to see that trophy. He was proud of that trophy, wasn't he, guys? You can tell. That's good stuff. Good guy. Obviously good for high school football in the state of Texas. And thanks to all of you guys for joining us as well. We'll be back again tomorrow with On Texas Football's Coffee and Football. We got a live stream tonight with a new member that we'll be talking to as well. So hope you guys have fun and enjoy the day. It's a good day to be a Longhorn. It's a good day to be a Longhorn.
Well, we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you.